Hey everybody, Rosematter here, and welcome to part 54 of my Umineko Let's Play. The last episode, the epitaph was solved, yay! But actually not yay, because of course with the epitaph being solved, there's going to be a lot of complications, a lot of drama happening between the family. And we already saw it start to happen, and I imagine it's only going to get crazier, and of course we are coming up to the first twilight, so yeah. So this episode, we'll see the continuation of the family conference, and maybe we'll have some murders. I don't know. Might be a little bit too soon for that, but let's jump into this and let's see what happens next. Badler did nothing but gaze lazily out the window. The fighting between the relatives continued without end. At first, the relatives had crowded around the study. However, no matter how much they knocked, the master of the study did not answer even once. Ava and several others said they should open the door with the second key, the one Genji had. However, in a flash of brilliance, Natsui said that Kinzo had been in a particularly bad mood and had taken back the key he'd previously given Genji, meaning he now had both keys himself. She claimed it was therefore impossible for them to open the door. Locked room situation, eh? She's creating her own. After she promised to let them meet Kinzo tomorrow morning no matter what, they finally returned to the dining hall. But of course, the argument continued on even after they returned there. Yeah, Ballard probably really regretting solving that epitaph. He probably wishes he could just be back in the guest house blissfully unaware with his cousins. Ava's group wanted a lot of cash very soon, and they were trying to threaten Krauss somehow and make him pay up. Apparently, Badler's solving of the epitaph, which threatened Krauss's position as the next head, had given the others a huge tailwind. On the other side, Krauss and Natsui denied the very basis of their argument, claiming it had never been specified that ownership of the gold would be handed over to the person who solved the epitaph. They asserted it hadn't been hiding gold, but just Kinzo's stockpile. And it was still Kinzo's property, which meant it was only natural for it to be distributed after Kinzo's death with the rest of the inheritance. After hearing this, Ava's group once again started demanding they be allowed to see Kinzo. It had probably been clear as day from the beginning. The sibling fight could only be settled by Kinzo. It was obvious this confrontation was between Ava's group, which wanted cash fast, and Krauss, who was hiding his lack of funds, but still didn't need money right away. As Badler listened vaguely to this exchange, he marveled at how, despite their usual affluent airs, they were all surprisingly deep in debt. Deep in debt, ugh.
それもさっき聞いた話ではないかね。もういい。休止しよう。お互い一度した話を延々と繰り返しているだけだ。
According to the clock, it was almost midnight, which means the murders will start happening soon. It certainly was a perfect time for a break. The atmosphere relaxed just a bit.
同感や。お互い一服するのも悪くないで。ほな以後は議事を取りながらにせんか。言った言わないはもうごめんや。
まったくだわ。下の根も乾かないうちにそんなことは言ってないなんて。平気で言い出す兄さんとの会議に議事録は必須だものね。
文字じゃ書くのも手間だし、インチキだっていくらでもできるわ。
そうだな、兄貴。こいつは動くのか？
オーディオセットかね。なるほど。
You think even if it did, you think he said it would... Do you think he would say it would work? It would... I feel like that would only be beneficial for the other siblings.
それならば議事を手書きせずに済むし、捏造もできんね。互いにとって公平だ。
That would be so much easier these days. Everybody has a recording device in their pocket.
勝手にいじらないように。当主様の大切な音楽テープですよ。
The dignified tape set had a sense of weight to it, which matched this majestic dining hall perfectly. On pleasant Sunday mornings, it would sometimes be used to play famous tapes or records. However, right now, it was the most neutral and impartial conference record keeper around. Record keeper. Oh my gosh, why am I having such trouble with words today? Rudolph fished randomly around the cassette rack, searching for a blank tape. And every time he found some tape with sophisticated music, he would chuckle at how pompous it was.
失礼します。お呼びでしょうか。
休憩することになったの。申し訳ないんだけど、何か飲み物を用意してもらえないかしら。ビスケットみたいなものがあってもいいかもね。
かしこまりました。すぐにご用意いたします。
Now this would be a good time to drug everybody. Put it in their drinks or their food.
あと、ごめんなさい。風邪薬あるかしら。
Cold medicine, eh? Rosa, you gonna be knocking people out with your cold medicine?
さっきから熱っぽくて。
なら無理は良くないな。休みたまえ。
ローザがいいと思うなら好きに休めば。私ならこの大事な会議中に風邪くらいじゃ休まないけどね。
そうかね。私は遠慮なく休ませてもらうよ。夏日、私たちも少し休まないか。
Now they're all breaking, they're all going off in their own directions, and the murders will begin soon.
はい、あなた。
Sensing he meant to have a strategy meeting, Natsui stood up. Even if it wasn't the case, she was so desperate to get out of the room, even for a moment, that she'd have taken any excuse. Krauss and Natsui left the dining hall, and the tension in the room truly relaxed. Valor's like, being an adult sucks.
最悪の気分でしょ。大人の階段だと思って諦めて。
俺はいつまでここでボサーっとしてりゃいいんすかね。
さあ、バトラ君は私たちのおみこしだからね。眠い？
Thanks. Battler is basically he's just basically like, we only care about you because you basically have control over the money.
古典の授業程度には。
今夜はどうせお父さんは現れないでしょう。クラウス兄さんたちが戻ってきたら、バトラ君はもう戻っていいかと提案してみるわ。
よろしく頼むぜ。
Tap tap. A light knock and the faint sound of china clinking together could be heard.
失礼します。お茶をお持ちいたしました。
Shannon and Cannon had come by with a serving cart. The pleasant smell of black tea relieved their tension all the more. They totally drugged that tea. Come on.
よ、話は聞いてるか？
何のお話でしょうか？僕たちは何も。
よしなさいルドルフ。教える必要は何もないわ。
僕たちは家具ですから。親族会議のお話には関心ありません。
そうね。それが賢い返事だわ。
深夜勤なの？大変ね。
そういうお役目ですので、ご用命いただけて嬉しいです。
そうかもしれんな。することもなくぼんやり起きてる方がしんどいもんや。わしも下積み時代に倉庫番とかやったことあるんやけどな。ただ起きてるだけでもこれがとにかく辛いんや。
It's so true. Like I have a job where there can be a lot of downtime, and you just, after a while, you just look for stuff to do. At first it's nice to be like, okay, get a little bit of a break, you know. But after a while, you just feel the seconds of your life ticking by, and you're just like desperate, like, just give me something to do, please.
戦争直後はな、物資泥棒とかゾロゾロってな、警察も頼れん時代で、とにかく物騒でな。
Hideyoshi was particularly proud of how he had started with nothing and built up assets by diverting goods from the American army. Once the subject came up, Hideyoshi tended to get pretty talkative. The relatives knew this and were greatly relieved to see that a perfect sacrifice had come up.
バレたら一大じゃ。
They were probably just, yeah, they're just happy to have somebody talking about something other than the family conference stuff.
アメさんは怖いで。牛肉食っとるからパワーも桁違いや。捕まったら最後銃殺刑かデスバイハンギングや。わかるか？デスバイハンギング。それでな、 わしは思うたんや。
Are we gonna have a death by hanging here? Is that a foreshadowing?
肉や肉や。日本人はもっと肉を食わなあかん。そしてわしは胃袋をつかむ商売を始めなあかんという典型を受けたんや。
はあ、それは大変なお仕事ですね。
よしなさいよあなた。戦後生まれにいくら話しても当時の苦労なんか伝わらないわよ。
She's like these damn millennials or whatever they were called back in the 80s.
またわしの悪い癖が出てしもうたな。すまんすまん。
あなたたちもお茶をしていきなさいよ。たまには自分たちがどういう紅茶を入れてるか、その下で学ぶのもいい勉強になると思うわ。
いえ、結構です。お気遣いなく。
少し付き合ってくれよ。大人ばかりで俺も窒息しそうなんだ。
そら、次期当主のバトラ様のご命令だぞ。そこに座って俺たちとしばらくお茶しろい。それで最近の出来事とか趣味とか見てるテレビとか若者の今の流行りとか、そういう話をしやがれ。俺たちの勉強になるからな。
明暗ね。ほら、二人とも座って。
They're like, we're furniture. We don't watch stuff. We don't do stuff. We just serve.
そして話題に飢えた私たちの生贄になってちょうだい。
そうやな。若い子と話をしよう思たらキャバクラでもいかんとこの年では難しいわ。
いつまでボサッと突っ立ってんのよ。ルドルフが座れと命令したわ。座りなさいよ。私も許可してあげるわ。
After getting Ava's permission, Shannon and Kennen looked at each other and finally obeyed, nervously. For a while, the two were pounded by questions and became the relatives' playthings. I guess now that Erica's gone, they have somebody else they have to focus on. Tap, tap. Another reserved knock could be heard. All of the servants tended to knock in a similar manner, so no one noticed anything strange. However, Shannon and Kennen turned around with surprised looks on their faces. Is it Kinzo? The servants here today included the two of them, Genji, Kumasawa, and Goda. Goda had the midnight shift at the guest house. Or maybe Erica's come in and being like, I'm about to lay down the law with you guys. Kumasawa had gone to bed in the servants' quarters in the guest house. And they were in here, so Genji was the only person left. But they knew very well Genji wouldn't knock like that.
誰だ？開いてるぜ。
Oh, maybe...
勝手に入るよ。
I wonder if that guy's going to be making his entrance, Natsui's son or whoever. Let's get another new character in here, come on. Rudolph didn't recognize the knock either. And when he asked, who is it, everyone came to the same realization that they too had no idea who would knock like that. After that, the same knock repeated just once more. Could it be someone had their hands full and was asking that the door be opened for them? And there's the chiming of the bell. As a slightly odd feeling began to encompass the room, the sound of the large clock in the hall could be heard. Here we go. It was the sign that October 4th had ended and October 5th had begun. Oh, it's gonna fade out, isn't it? We're not gonna see what happened. But Battler's there, which is going to be odd, because usually Battler is away from all that, all the murders and everything. So it'll be interesting to see how things go this time, because he has to be the last left alive. A short while earlier, Krauss and Natsui were well away from the dining hall, in a deserted corridor on the second floor.
もうそれしか手はないのかね。
はい。
Oh, are they doing the thing where they have to pretend that Kinzo's walking around, or he's disappeared?
明日一日同じではもはや通用しないでしょう。これ以上を渋ればエヴァさんたちはお父様を監禁しているなどと主張して警察に訴える可能性さえあります。もうこれが限界です。バトラ君が黄金を発見するのが全く想定外でした。あれさえなければなんとかうまくやりくりできる筋書きを考えていたのですが。
私がかけるといつもこうだな。いつも想定外のことが起き、絶対確実だった話が おかしくなる。
明日の朝お父様の部屋が空っぽであるということにします。源氏と口裏を合わせ早朝に森へ出かけていくのを見たと言わせましょう。
その思想をエヴァたちが素直に受け入れるとは思えん。
客も承知です。しかしもうそれしか手がありません。
そのようなことをすればエヴァたちは疑わしいと騒ぎ立てるだろう。エヴァたちは金をせしめるためならなりふりなど構わない。それこそおかしな雑誌とつるんで私の信用にダメージを与えてくるかもしれない。
ダメージで済むではありませんか。万一にもお父様の秘密を知られたらそれどころでは済みません。
明日一日をギリギリまで粘ってからでも遅くはない。もしも明日を無事に乗り切ることができれば、私たちは何も失うものはないのだ。
I wouldn't trust Krauss on anything at this point. Everything he's done so far has seemingly failed. So it's like, go with Natsui's idea for once.
焦って失踪という切り札を切る必要はない。
彼らがお父様を監禁していると騒ぎ立て、そこに失踪していたと返すのですか。その方がはるかに疑いを招きます。
Yeah, right? Like Natsui was the reason that things went as well as they did the previous year. Like, give her some credit, man.
もうお父様に
Aww.
お休みいただきましょう。これ以上は無理です。
落ち着きたまえ。エヴァたちの毒気を浴びすぎて冷静を失っただけだ。
Whoa, even Krauss is saying stuff about the magic toxin, which is strange.
あの書斎に入る鍵は2本しかない。そしてその2本はここに君が持っている。だから誰も入ることなどできん。あの扉は特別製だ。彼らが倉庫からどんな工具を持ってこようともびくともせんよ。
そういう物理的な問題ではありません。
だから焦るな。落ち着け。なんなら君は熱を出したことにして寝込んでいてくれればいい。その間に私が全て乗り切ってみせる。
She's like, I cannot trust you on your own. I cannot.
あなただけに任せられます。
Yeah.
私も最後まで戦います。
She can say it's because, a dutiful wife stays by their husband till the end, but it's more like, I need to fix all of the problems that you've caused. When Natsui could no longer hold back the tears brought on by her fierce emotions, Krauss held her gently. Just how long had it been since she'd last felt warmth from her husband's
頭
embrace?
痛がひどいのだろう。君がそういうシワを眉間に浮かべるときはいつもそうだ。
あなた。
She'd come to think her husband could never understand the way she felt, but when it came to times like this,
失踪という切り札は最後の最後まで待とう。殿下の報道と同じだよ。抜かないうちが花だ。大事なのはいつでも抜けるという心構えではないかね。
それは分かっています。
その切り札を私に預けてくれんかね。もちろん最後の瞬間の責任は全て私が取る。君とジェシカは巻き込まん。
Aw. Well, I liked seeing these little moments of him, I guess, letting his guard down a little bit and showing that he can be a decent father and husband.
それはどういう意味ですか。
後宮家が滅ぶ時、その瓦礫に潰されるのは私だけで十分だ。台風が過ぎたら
Whoa.
離婚届を準備しよう。
I guess it's so that she legally can't be, blamed for anything. Like, she'll be absolved of it if they're technically divorced.
それに捺印し、
Wow.
君に預けておく。内緒で。
Wow.
君の
All
家に
right.
してある
Okay,
財産
maybe Krauss is more than just decent. It's nice that he's thought of these things ahead of time to protect her and Jessica. Well, that's sweet. Although they wouldn't be in this situation if he hadn't been so reckless with the money in the first place.
さらにそれに慰謝料を加えれば、君とジェシカは不自由なく暮らせるはずだ。
嫌です。私の墓碑に刻むべき名は後宮夏日です。どうか最後の瞬間までご一緒に。 とえあなたが後宮家最後の当主であろうとも、夏日を最後までどうか当主夫人であなたの妻で
Aw. And that's right.
させてください。
She values that name above everything else. Krauss's existence was based solely upon the power of his assets and his trustworthiness as a financial fixer. If those were both undermined, nothing would remain. Using the trump card of Kinzo's disappearance would mean losing one of these two essential supports. It was like offering your right arm to save your head from being cut off. It was probably better than losing your head, but you still might die from the blood loss. And even on the off chance that you did survive, you would have to bear a heavy wound that wouldn't heal for the rest of your life. Krauss was prepared even for death. Natsui understood this, buried her face in Krauss's chest, and cried. That was a sweet moment, and now there'll probably be murder soon.
お取り込み中、失礼いたします。
Genji's sudden voice made Natsui jump back and hurriedly wipe the tears from her eyes. Krauss stood in front of Natsui, shielding her.
源氏さんか。驚かせないでくれたまえ。何か用かね。はい、申し訳ございませんが、奥様にご報告が。
私にですか。
It's that guy, right? It's gotta be.
あなた。
構わんよ。
Krauss left Natsui's side, went to the window a short way off, and gazed at the windy and rainy rose garden. Natsui went with Genji to a place a short distance away. It's gotta be the guy who called. What other reason would Genji have to talk to Natsui alone?
何事ですか。
And that means that the person who was knocking is probably this guy, which I'm so excited about.
はい、実はまた奥様に。
Yeah. She's like, I can't even with this. I can't. It's just too much. At that moment, she was surprised by a sudden, eerie sound. It was the large clock in the hall announcing midnight.
まさかまたあの男なのですか。
はい、いかがいたしましょう。
要件は何だと言っていますか。
お答えいただけません。奥様と直接お話ししたいとの一点張りでございます。
Again, a phone call from the man who claimed to be taking revenge for what had happened 19 years ago. 19 years ago. That was just 1 year before Jessica and Badler were born. In Natsui's eyes, the gap between 19 years and 18 years was immense. For a long time, she was unable to fulfill her role of creating a successor for the Ushiromiya family, and was treated very coldly. But then she finally gave birth to Jessica, and became able to call herself the wife to the Ushiromiya successor with her head held high. So in her eyes, Ushiromiya Natsui began 18 years ago. What happened with this guy 19 years ago, though? Especially because he said that she was his son, or he was her son? So everything before that, including 19 years ago, contained nothing but hateful memories. The last year of that hateful period was whispering of revenge from the other end of the phone. Like, did she have an affair and have a son with someone else, and she was ashamed, so she, like, gave the kid up for adoption or something, and he's come to find her? Although I would assume that if, like, something like that happened, she wouldn't carry the kid all the way to birth. Oh, I'm so confused by this. Once again, she heard the roar of the sea, and there's a thing about the sea as well. What does that have to do with this?
いかがなさいますか。
Like, maybe she had the kid. Except I don't, oh boy, I'm just like, maybe she had the kid and maybe she tried to, like, dispose of the kid by throwing it in the sea or something, and the baby survived? Like, that's ridiculous. No, like, she would, I don't think she would do something like that. Just the idea of her having a secret son and hiding it all these years.
私の部屋に転送しなさい。主人には内密に。
かしこまりました。
From the very beginning, Genji had understood she wouldn't want Krauss hearing about this phone call. Like, maybe she did have some sort of, like, secret. But I'm like, it'd be one thing if it was the guy having an affair with a woman, it would be easy to hide, but like she would be very, like she'd be pregnant. It would be very hard to hide that. That was why he had told Natsui covertly. Natsui ordered he transfer the call, told Krauss she would turn in for the night, and left at a quick pace. Oh god, I'm so intrigued. Please let this guy be who showed up to the family conference. She returned to her room and locked the door. There's nothing peculiar about that. In the Ushiromiya family, hallways are like public roads. There's no special meaning in locking the door when you enter your own room. This is what she told herself, and to create a locked room situation. Those are also very common for the Ushiromiyas. Then, as though it had been waiting for her, the telephone rang. Genji must have transferred the call. She took a deep breath, readied herself, and picked up the receiver. Again, it started with silence. She realized the person at the other end was trying to keep her in suspense and make her feel uncomfortable, and she got angry.
切るなよ、母さん。もう少し声を聞いていたいんだからさ。
Again, that unpleasant voice.
私を愚弄する気ですか？要件を追いなさい。
母さんと遊びたい。
何を言っているんですか、あなたは。私はあなたとなど遊びたくありません。
親族会議で疲れたんだろ。持病の頭痛がだいぶ辛いんじゃないかね。
You know, I could be taking this literally. He keeps calling her mother. It might be a mocking thing. Maybe she's not the mother at all, but it's weird that he's like pinpointing Natsui. Just the fact he knew her headache was troubling her made a shiver run up her spine.
そのままベッドに入ったっていい夢は見られないよ。
だから余計なお世話だと言っています。切りますよ。
Natsui forcefully yelled she was hanging up, but in actuality, she couldn't. After all, this person was choosing to call her, and that was much better than the alternative. If she hung up violently, this person might choose to call someone else.
頭のこりをほぐすためにちょっとだけ遊ぼうよ。何？時間は取らせないよ。
あなたと遊ぶ気などありません。
母さんの名前はナツヒ。名前に季節を持ってるね。いい名前だ。でもナツヒだからって夏が好きとは限らない。母さんが本当に好きな季節は何だい？
それをあなたに教えると思いますか？
教えてくれないなら俺が切るよ。いいのかい？
It was clearly a threat. It meant if she forced him to hang up the phone, anything might happen. Humiliated, she was forced to give in to a threat made by a man whose name she didn't even know. She gave him the answer he wanted.
秋です。
どうして？
過ごしやすい季節だからです。他に特に理由はありません。これで満足ですか？
ああ、満足だ。やっぱり母さんの好きな季節は俺と同じだったよ。俺も秋が好きなんだ。
That is an odd laugh.
嘘つき、出任せを言うんじゃありません。
This man would no doubt have done the same thing no matter what season I said I liked. What is he after? What's so fun about making me uncomfortable like this?
嘘つきなんてひどいな。出任せなんかじゃない。俺は母さんが秋が好きだって確信してたよ。証拠を見せてもいい？
証拠？
ああ、母さんの部屋に時計はあるかい？
時計？ええ、ありますが、それが何か。
In Natsui's room, there was a beautiful antique clock with an intricate design. Krauss had bought it for her as a birthday present long ago.
今は0時7分ですね。もう眠いので、茶番を早く終わらせなさい。
その時計、持ち上げて。
Oh shit.
どうしてです？
いちいちうるせえな。俺の言うことにお前は歯向かうんじゃない。黙って言われた通りにすればいいんだ。
The tone of the man's voice suddenly went low, turning into a threat. It indicated clear displeasure. Outwardly, this man had a calm manner of speaking, but on the inside, things were completely different. She angered this man even the slightest bit further. He would surely show his true nature right away. There's the sound of the sea again.
あんたが19年前にしたことを俺はいつだってあんたの旦那や娘に話すことができる。
あなたが何の話をしているか知りませんが、夫や娘を巻き込まないでください。こうして私が電話を聞いていますから。なら
言われた通りにしよう。
Once again, the man threatened me in a low voice, as though warning me never to talk back to him again. My head was filled with the pain from my headache, the sound of my beating heart, and the roar of the sea. I couldn't disobey him anymore. As the man had ordered, I lifted up the antique clock. There lay something that resembled a single playing card. Perhaps it was the warranty for the clock? Thinking this, she took it and turned it over. What is it? What is it? What is it? So obviously he must have been in her room at some point. Because how would he know about all of these things in her room and what's under the clock? I'm assuming he put that there.
どうしてこんな。
あんたの頭痛が少しは引いたなら嬉しいんだけどな。嬉しいって言ってよ。母さん。
どうやってこれを。どうして。どうやって。
嬉しいですって言ってほしいな。
Murderer.
この人殺しめ。
Oh shit.
よくも潔癖な奥様面ができるもんだぜ、ヘドが。
Maybe she did have a previous child. Maybe he's not the child, but maybe he knows. And he's like he's saying mother is like a mocking tone of like the child that she had that maybe she got rid of. Huh, interesting.
あんたの娘にもぶちまけられたよ。嫌だろ。黙っててほしいだろ。ああ、黙っててやるよ。ほら、嬉しいだろ。嬉しいだろ。
嬉しいです。嬉しいです。だからやめて。夫と娘に構わないで。何が要求ですか。お金ですか。いくらですか。
金なんか欲しくないよ。俺の傷は金をいくら使って癒せない。
Okay. So he sounds personally affected by this. So,
薬なら。そうだ。それは軟膏みたい。ねっとり、ドロドロ、糸を引いた。それはあんた。俺の使う縁。そいつを塗ってるしか、痛みが抑えられないんだよ。
Natsui had never had anything so hateful said to her in her entire life, so she suspected many times that she must be having some sort of bad dream. However, this definitely wasn't a dream.
あなたはまさかこの島にいるのですか。
Oh shit, here we go. We're gonna get another person. I can't wait to meet this guy, whoever he is. That's totally the guy who's outside of the door right now, into the dining hall.
この台風では来られるわけもありません。
台風になる前から来てれば問題はないよ。それに台風の最中であってもエリカとかいう来客があったはずだ。
Her blood froze. Furdo Erica had been brought here by coincidence. If he knew that name, he would have to be very close by.
あなたはどこに。
あんたの紹介がないうちは誰の前にも現れないさ。安心しな。おっと、俺を探しても無駄だよ。あんたの屋敷は広い。電話だってそこいら中にあるしな。あんただって俺に会いたくないだろ。 それとも俺を見つけ出してみんなに紹介してくれるのか。ジェシカにも紹介してくれよ。一つ上の兄だ。
Oh my gosh. Wellesley, Wellesley, Wellesley. She wanted so badly to have a kid, and you know she wanted to have a son, because then that would be a better head of the family. So, like, the only way I could see her being ashamed and hiding the son is if it wasn't Krauss's.
怖がらせすぎたかな。今夜はこれで勘弁してやるよ。
Maybe Krauss did know about that, and maybe they agreed to, like, not say anything about it. Give the kid up for adoption. And then they just wouldn't talk about it anymore because it would just cause too much drama. But, yeah, but then he called her a murderer. Ah.
あんたは俺に逆らえないんだ。分かってるな、母さん。今夜はこれで電話を切るが、明日の朝まで命令がある。
何ですか？
あんたは今夜もうその部屋を出てはならないし、どこにも電話をかけてはならない。電話がかかってきても取ることも許さねえぜ。そして今すぐ明かりを消し、布団をかぶって寝ろ。そしていつもの時間に起床しろ。健康的な生活でいいな。母さんの体をいたわるなんて、本当に俺は親孝行者だよ。
わかりました。今すぐ寝ます。部屋も出ません。電話も出ません。だから夫と娘には。
母さんが俺の命令を守る限り、あんたの秘密は守ってやるよ。命令を破るなよ。俺はもうお前のすぐ近くにいる。部屋の明かりが消えるかどうか、そして電話をしているかどうかさえ。
Oh, how creepy would that be? If he was just, like, at some point in her room, like, under her bed or something. I know not right now, because obviously he's talking through a phone. He's like, I'm always watching you, mother. Oh, gosh. Oh, gosh. Maybe I'm not too far off, considering she locked the door, unless he has the keys.
守ります。約束は守ります。だからやめて。もうやめて。やめて。
As she screamed, Natsui crushed the card she had found under the clock in a little ball. It had a pattern on it like a tarot card, along with one single word, autumn. Oh. Bum bum bum. We go back in time once again. The large clock in the hall was right in the middle of striking midnight. Wondering who the person who had now knocked twice was, the relatives in the dining hall stared at the door. Rudolph told them to come in, but there was no answer. Until the end of that long tone marking the coming of midnight, which had come from the large clock in this hall shortly after the knock, they were unable to move in the slightest.
手が塞がってて開けられないんじゃないのか。
かもな。だが名乗らねえってのは薄気味悪いな。
開けますか。
開けなさい。
Cannon nodded back and slowly opened the door. Oh, it's begun. Right behind the open door, on the floor of the hallway, lay the envelope.
廊下には誰もいません。これを置いて立ち去ったのでしょうか。
The adults flew out into the corridor as well, but they could find no trace of anyone who might have knocked on the door. Barely an hour ago, Shannon and Cannon had come in to serve tea. At that time, everyone had seen nothing lay in that spot. Someone came, knocked, left an envelope with the mark of the one-winged eagle on it, and left.
まさか親方様でしょうか。
考えられない話じゃないわ。この屋敷で誰と呼ばれて返事をしないのは お父様くらいだもの。
ありえないわ。ならどうしてお父様は堂々と入ってこないの？
そうやな。お父さんだったらノックなどせずいきなり入ってくるやろな。今このお屋敷は戸締まりがされとるんやろ。ならここに手紙を置くことができるんはクラウスさんか夏日さん、そして源氏さんの誰かしか考えられんで。
By this point, the mansion had been completely locked up. Therefore, those in the guest house, the cousins, Nanjo, Goda, Kumasawa, and Erika, could not have come here. Furthermore, since Krauss, Natsui, and Genji were the only three who weren't in this room, one of these three had to have been the one who set the letter down in the corridor. In that case, it was very likely that Krauss and the others had placed the letter there to make it seem like a message from Kinzo.
なるほどね。お父様の名を語ってバトラ君を次期当主に認めないみたいな
Yeah,
こと
this'll
が
be
書いてあるの
interesting.
よ。
It'll be interesting to see what's in this letter, because normally it's talking about solving the epitaph, but the epitaph has already been solved.
バカバカしい。兄さんめ、よくもこんな子供騙しを。
別に俺は次期当主なんて興味ねえぞ。
諦めろ。それがお前の運命なんだよ。とにかく中身を読んでみようじゃねえか。
Rudolph set the letter down on the dining hall table and showed everyone the front and back, almost like a magician does before performing his act to show there are no tricks or hidden mechanisms.
この封筒は間違いなくお父様の封筒なの？
ええ、間違いないわ。お父様が神書に好んで使う封筒よ。どう、シャノンちゃん。
はい、私の目にも親方様が使われる封筒に見えます。
だからってお父様が書いたってことにはならないわよ。兄さんならお父様の書斎の引き出しからひょいと手に入れることなんて造作もない話だわ。
クラウス様とて容易に書斎には入りません。封筒を盗み出すなど難しいことかと。
開けてみようぜ。それから考えても遅くないはずだ。何か入ってるな。なんだろうな。
Rudolph opened the envelope a bit roughly. Then a folded letter, and a glittering object fell out. It was a ring.
え？ちょっと、その指輪？
I even noticed it immediately and grabbed it, I guess saying like, this is going to go to the new head of the family.
これ、お父様の指輪よ。当主の指輪だわ。
なんやて？ほんまか？
間違いなくお父様の指輪なの？レプリカということは？
これは本物よ。私はいつかこの指輪を自分の指に通してやるとずっと夢見てきたのよ。お父様が指にしてた時から私は誰よりもこの指輪のことをよく知ってるわ。これはお父様の指輪よ、間違いなく。どうしてここに？
じゃあやっぱりこの手紙はお父様が。
こりゃ差出人は親父じゃねえぞ。もっと面白い。
じゃあ誰からの手紙だった？
It's Riche, obviously.
後ろ宮家顧問錬金術師黄金の魔女ベアトリーチェ様からだぜ。
Rudolph showed everyone the part of the letter where that was written. It really did say that.
ベアトリーチェから？
なんて書いてある？
読むぞ。コングラッチュレーションズ。バトラ様が碑文の謎を見事に解かれ黄金鏡にたどり着きましたことを認めます。黄金はすべてバトラ様のものです。そして後ろ宮家の新しき当主もバトラ様です。
Well, that's the complete opposite of what Ava and everybody thought, where they thought it was going to be saying that there's no way that Badler is the head, and now it's saying like, nope, he's the head.
その証として金蔵様よりお預かりしている当主の指輪をお送りします。どうぞバトラ様、指輪をされて新しい黄金の主となり、どうか後ろ宮家をお導きください。新しき当主のご活躍を心よりお祈りいたしております。 なんてこった。親父が書斎から出てこねえもんだから、森の魔女ベアトリーチが直接バトラを認めてくれたわけだ。
バトラ君、この指輪はあなたが持つのよ。これは当主が身につけるべき特別な指輪。ベアトリーチェが何者か知らないけれど、彼女は一部始終を見届け、あなたが真の跡継ぎだと認めてこの指輪を贈ったのよ。
いいんすか、こんな重要な指輪を。
ああ、いいんだ。誇らしげに指にはめるといい。いいか、兄貴や夏日さんが外せと言っても絶対に外すんじゃねえぞ。
With creepy smiles on their faces, all the relatives urged Badler to put the ring on his finger. It looked like things would get pretty nasty if he refused, so Badler reluctantly decided to put it on the middle finger of his left hand. The ring was heavy and stiff. At that moment, Krauss returned. Genji came back as well immediately afterwards.
申し訳ないね。妻は具合が悪そうだったので先に休ませてもらった。
Oh, it's about to get even more heated right now.
何かあったのかね。なんだか諸君がひどく慌ただしいようだ。バトラ様、それは。
Immediately, Genji keenly spotted the thing that Badler had just put on his finger.
さすが源氏さんや。これが誰の指輪かわかるようやな。
何の話だね。
From Krauss's questioning look, it was very difficult to imagine he could have been the one who set that letter there. Furthermore, his expression quickly changed into one of shock.
そうよ、Ushiromiya家当主の指輪よ。
The family conference took up this new topic, and the storm came once again. The rain was still pouring down as hard as ever. This weather was supposed to continue all day tomorrow as well, which was making me feel a bit depressed. Oh wait, given the time, that's today, not tomorrow. But that doesn't really matter now. I'm sleepy. So much for Badler getting to go to bed. With half-asleep eyes, I opened my umbrella. The large drops of rain pounded against it mercilessly. Technically... Oh, okay. Never mind. Technically, they had called an end to the family conference at 1 a.m., but the post-match scuffles were still dragging on. I was really jealous of Auntie Rosa, who managed to slip out of there at that time. She cleverly got away by saying she'd check on Maria, who might have been staying up too late. Thanks to Dad constantly involving me, I missed my chance to escape. And they made me stick around until now, 3 a.m. What on earth did they spend all that time deciding? Nothing got decided at all. They just kept on arguing about who said what, like elementary school kids. They must be tired too. I'm sure that's why they keep dragging on with that same pointless question. I no longer felt any shock or anger towards them. I guess no painkiller works better than drowsiness. I left them behind and finally returned to the guest house. When I returned to the guest house, the lights were on in the lounge downstairs. Not only that, I could even hear people chatting inside. Apparently, some people were still awake even at this time of night. Oh, did some murders happen? No, it's like I imagine that they wouldn't be quite so, like they probably would have ran to the main household if murders happened. Despite the late hour, Goda-san and Dr. Nanjo were still awake and chatting. Plates and cups were lined up on the counter. And it looked almost like a bar with Goda-san as the bartender. After noticing I'd come back, it looked as though Dr. Nanjo finally realized how late it was. As Goda-san made to top off his glass, he declined with an exaggerated gesture.
もう結構です。この時間では夜更かしのしすぎだ。
もうこんな時間とは。南條先生があまりにお話がお上手なもので。ついつい。
Well, I'm glad they were having fun.
それを言ったらあんたの酒の魚のおかげだ。また別の機会に一杯やりましょう。
喜んで。バトラ様、お帰りなさいませ。まだ旦那様方の会議は続いておりますか？
あの調子でグダグダと明け方までやるんだろうぜ。知ったことじゃねえぜ。
I spoke carelessly with a big yawn.
皆さん、案外体力が終わりですね。
Balor's like, Erica, shut up. I don't want to talk to you. You're the reason all this happened.
びっくりです。
なんだ、お前までいたのか。
なんとなく流れでこちらでささやかな夜会が始まったもので混ぜてもらっていました。例のことは話してませんのでご安心を。
Erica could be seen on the sofa. She had taken her shoes off and was lounging around as though she owned the place.
エリカ様も本当にいろいろなお話をご存知で、とても楽しく聞かせていただきました。
あんたは本当に博識だ。若いのに大したもんだよ。
どういたしまして。フルドエリカはこの程度には博識ですので。
Erica posed by picking up the hem of her skirt. She was lounging on the sofa with her feet up, so it didn't look remotely elegant.
ローザおばさんは
午前の1時頃にお戻りになりましたが、すぐに上がられお休みになられました。
I don't like Rosa. I don't like her, but I respect the fact that she loves her sleep so much that she always tries to slip away, and that would be me. Absolutely, like family gatherings. We're obviously not doing this kind of shit. We're not arguing over money and stuff, but like whenever there's family gatherings, I am almost always the first one to go to bed, and I have no qualms about being like, all right, peace out, guys. I'm done. Like, I don't force myself to stay awake. So, like, I respect the game Rosa has. Sleep is the most important thing. Because, I mean, we don't have quite as many rooms as the Ushiromiyas do. So, when there's a lot of family, if you don't get a bed, you basically sleep on a couch or you sleep on the floor. So, like, I go to bed early and I make sure I get my bed. That was probably the right choice. She'd been going along with that conference for so long. I felt like flopping down in bed right away myself. I'd had it. I'd tired enough that I might flop over right there.
さあ、私たちもこれくらいにしましょう。ゴーダさんも明日の朝食の準備で朝が早いのでしょう。
朝食の仕込みはすでに済んでおります。どうぞ明日の朝食も大いにご期待いただければ幸いです。
In Goda-san's eyes, the family conference is an open stage on which to display his culinary skills. Goda's the only one who's enjoying himself during the conference. He's probably so pumped he won't even get sleepy. As she laughed at how youthful Goda was, Erica stood up. This acted as the sign it was time to disperse.
お片付けは私の方でしておきます。どうぞ皆様はお休みを。
Leaving the cleanup to Goda-san, I went to the bathroom, and then climbed the stairs to the second floor. Poor Balor didn't even get to really spend time with his cousins and have fun.
老骨にはちょっと夜更かしが過ぎましたな。
おやすみなさい、南條先生。おやすみなさい、バトラさん。
おう、おやすみ。
Then, in the upstairs hallway, we split up. Dr. Nanjo went to his own room. Erica went to her room. And I returned to the cousin's room. I couldn't hear any sounds of playing coming from the cousin's room. Could they have already gone to sleep? Well, it is 3 in the morning. No surprise this time of night. If they were still playing, they would have been staying up way too late. When I opened the door quietly, as expected, the room was already pitch black except for a small nightlight. Everyone was already sleeping in their beds. I bet they all had a great time horsing around. They probably had a ton of fun staying up late and talking about their youth. If only I hadn't found the gold, I could have had fun spending time with them. I'm already tired, so tired. Forgetting even to change my clothes or brush my teeth, I crawled into bed and immediately started to sink into the marshes of sleep. Today's been so insane. I wonder if that old bastard is still in that family conference now. How does he not get tired? Come to think of it, what is it that old bastard said when we parted company?
明日家族で重要な話がしたい。お前に関わることだ。
Oh, is this about his? Okay, I feel like Rudolph has said that multiple times, doesn't he? Like, he pulls Badler aside and he says, like, I need to talk to you about something tomorrow. And then he always gets killed. It's got to be about Badler's mother, right? I'm sure it's more stuff about being the successor. I don't even want to hear about it.
こいつを話せば俺は殺されるだろうな。
And I'm sure he said something like that. And he usually says stuff about, like, touching up his makeup or something, too, doesn't he? I'll murder you whenever you want, you old bastard. And then, what was it he said next?
お前の
Oh, okay, that's more than he's ever said. He always just talks about, like, we need to talk as a family. I need to tell you something. My birth? It's not... No, it can't be, because that was 19 years ago. Natsui said that Badler and Jessica were both born after the 19 years, so he is not Natsui's son. No. Probably just something about the noble Ushiromiya lineage. Not interested. Just let me sleep. Which means that Rudolph will probably be murdered by the next day. The sound of crashing waves, the sound of the tide surging, the noise of the sea breeze. Whenever my headache torments me, these are the sounds that fill my head. My inability to bear a successor placed me in a very difficult position within the Ushiromiya family. Oh, are we actually going to get some backstory into this? I tried every medication that was said to promote fertility, every incense or herb, but nothing I tried had any effect. Until I was blessed with Jessica 18 years ago, I was ashamed to even call myself a wife.
こうなすのは二人の努力と天の気まぐれ。そなたばかりが責められたのでは割が合わぬな。
何が原因で解任できなかったのかは今となっては分かりません。名医のもとにも通いました。屈辱的な検査も受けました。しかしいつも理由はわからないと言われるだけでした。
I mean, who's to say it's not on Krauss's end? Why does it always have to be Natsui's fault?
結婚から短くない時間を経て、未だ子を宿せない。なるほどな。
Maybe Jessica isn't Krauss's. Maybe he was infertile. I'm just really digging into like the all the stuff about this pregnancy and all of this.
次期当主を密かに狙うエヴァが首をもたげぬわけもない。
Ava tried to convince father that I was a failure as a future head's wife. It was a time when Kinzo was also very disappointed in my husband's repeated business failures. On the other hand, Ava's husband Hideyoshi's business was growing well, completely the opposite of my husband's business. He was the only person who could bring father good news. In that case, perhaps there could be no blame placed on father if he decided to lend an ear to Ava's words, or even accept them without question. It was all my fault because I couldn't bear a child.
そなたに罪などない。この国の赤ん坊はコウノトリが運んでくるのであろうが。
It's like Natsui is using Beatrice as like a sounding board to be like, it's not my fault. I'm not to blame for this.
裁かれるなら、それはコウノトリになるのが道理というものよ。
ありがとう。しかし、いくら当時はまだご健康とはいえ、すでにご高齢の当主様が早く孫の顔を見たいと思われていたことは想像に難くありません。
知るか。孫が欲しくば。うなるほど持っている金で好きにすればよかろうに。金で生み出せぬものはないと豪語した金蔵だ。孫が欲しくば自慢の金で何とかすればよいものを。
ええ、そうです。当主様は子を宿せぬ私を見限られ、その通りになされたのです。
Oh, he did just that. What? Thinking it the duty of anyone in possession of large amounts of money, the head gave a lot to charities. Among them, we're getting into this house that Shannon and Cannon came from. One among them, The facility known as the Gospel House had been given an especially large donation, possibly because he had old ties with that place.
Ah. 福音の家
Did they get a kid maybe from this orphanage?
よくあそこから家具どもがやってきていたな。
当主様は社会活動と職業訓練の一環として福音の家の子たちの中から成績優秀な子を使用人として受け入れていました。
Okay, so here we go. This feels connected. This whole thing about this guy that calls Natsui's mother, her inability to get pregnant. This house that has orphaned children. Kinzo with his money. I'm like, there's something going on there.
当家にいるシャノンやカノン、ルノンやマノン、レノンなどの音の名を持つ使用人はすべて。
Okay, these other characters, Runin, Manon, Renan, I don't think we've met those people yet, or I don't even know if they've even been mentioned before. Maybe in passing about like the other servants. But...
いろいろな連中がいたな。多くはほんの数年で辞めるがな。
当家の給金は数年も働けば十分社会で生活していけるだけたまるでしょうし、後宮家での使用人経験は履歴書に通用する立派な肩書きになります。それを得て社会へ羽ばたいてくれれば当主様もきっと本望だったでしょ
う。なるほど、養子か。
But then there's Canon and Shannon who decided to stay. I'm guessing there's a reason for that. With Shannon, we know it's probably because of, well, Badler and then George, but what about Canon?
お父様、今何とおっしゃいましたか？
この赤子を我が孫として。
Wow, did he literally take a child and to pass it off? What?
よしよしよし。よしよしよしよしよし。
He literally took a kid from the orphanage. Apparently, the baby Kumasawa was trying to soothe didn't like the air in the study at all. It kept on crying as if it hated it here.
申し訳ありません。お父様、私には何をおっしゃっているのか。
この赤子を我が孫として迎えよ。そしてクラウスの後を継ぐ者として育てるのだ。
Okay, did this actually happen? Is this unreliable narrator, or did he literally do that?
それはつまり私と
I'm wondering, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself here, but you know if Krauss or if Kinzo did do this, he would have picked a boy. So maybe Natsui was angry at this kid, you know, her inability to bear a child herself, and maybe the whole thing about like the sea, maybe she did, like maybe she took that kid and she like threw it into the ocean to kill it because she was so upset, but it survived somehow.
そうだ。お前に子が宿せぬことはもはや明白。お前の体には何かしらの問題があるに違いない。
おー、よしよしよしよしよし。おー、よしよしよしよしよし。
As though she couldn't hear our discussion in the slightest, Kumasawa kept on persistently trying to cuddle the baby. This made its crying get even louder.
暴言だな。女の責任だけで子が産めるなら、この世に男など必要ないわ。
Right? I kind of agree. Who's to say it's Natsui's fault? It's not Krauss isn't just shooting blanks.
あの日の悔しさを忘れたことはありません。私とて子が欲しくなかったわけがない。でもいくら祈ろうとも身ごもれないのです。私の体に原因があるのではないか。
She probably sees this kid just given to her as like just a reminder of her failure to be like the proper wife to be able to give a kid of her own body, you know.
しかしそれでもいくら努力しても身ごもれなかったのです。
その挙句がこの仕打ちではな。察するぞ。
The baby had been picked up by the Gospel House just recently. Of course, it wasn't that I didn't feel compassion for the child, who was so young and who had already lost its parents' affection. However, the pain and sadness I felt was far greater. It would have been another story if I had suffered to bear this child. But why did I have to cradle this baby, who not only shared none of my blood, but who was not related to my husband in the slightest either?
お父様を恨んではいません。もし恨めるのなら、ただただ自分の体が恨めしかった。憎かったんです。
I'm pretty sure that this is what it's leading to. This is this kid has somehow survived if Natsui tried to kill it somehow, and is coming back for revenge.
子を宿せぬ我が身がひたすらに憎かった。だから私は祈りました。天使と悪魔の両方に。そしてその両方が叶いました。
天使には何と祈ったか。
私の体に奇跡を。私の体に問題があるというならそれを受け入れましょう。ならばそれを克服してどうか夫の子を授かることのできる奇跡を私に。
その願いは叶ったわ。あなたはその次の年に見事にジェシカを産むことになる。そして
Oh, the demons probably to get rid of this baby, this other baby that I don't want.
悔しい、悔しい。
There's the sound of the ocean.
好みが恨めしい。そしてそれを見せつけるかのようなこの赤ん坊が憎かったんです。
何を願われたのですか？
I think we know what she wished for.
私は初めて悪魔に祈りました。願いました。この赤ん坊が消えてなくなってしまえばいいのにって。
Of course, that wish was also granted by demons. On that day, I left the baby with one of the older servants and went to think about the future in the rose garden. No, that's a lie. I just wanted to clear my mind of everything. The baby's cries were aggravating, so I ordered the servant to take the baby to a place where I couldn't hear. By a place where I couldn't hear, I meant somewhere far away. Yes, I wished. I wished for the servant to take the baby far away and never return. Oh shit, so she didn't do it by her own hands. She got a servant to do it. This, I gotta say, this game's really good at making you, like, the characters are very three-dimensional in that you understand where they're coming from. They do bad things, like her wanting to kill a baby or have it disappear. But then you also feel her pain and her reasoning for why she would do it. Just thinking about how, like, Natsuhi, when I first met her, and she just seemed like kind of a sickly, over-emotional wife, and then you learn all of the stuff that she had to go through, and you're like, okay, I understand her reasoning, I may not agree with it, but I understand.
雪吊りの悪魔が夏日様のその願いを聞いてしまったのですな。
してど
Here
う
we
なっ
go,
た
here we go.
それは悪魔が願いを叶えてくれたとしか思えない奇妙な事故でした。
The woodland path from the rose garden to the harbor is certainly well suited for a pleasant walk. And from time to time, if the mood took you, it would undoubtedly feel good to veer off the path and take a walk through the trees. However, wouldn't that be venturing a little too far for a walk with a baby in your arms? Yeah. Yep. Oh my god, I can't believe I called it.
高さは多分10メートルくらいはあったと思います。下は岩場。そこには柵もあったのです。
Wait, isn't this the same cliff where the original Beatrice fell and died? That Rosa saw, right?
その使用人はわざわざそんなところまで赤ん坊を抱いたまま歩いていき、そして柵に寄りかかったとでも言うのでしょうか。まるで悪魔に手招きされて誘われたとしか思えない。
誘われちゃったのね。あなたの願いを聞いた悪魔がその使用人を招いちゃったんだわ。
Now, if we were to say demons don't exist in this world, what would the reason be for the servant to do this? And does that mean that the servant died as well, like they both fell off the cliff?
それでは
Yep.
その
Okay.
使用人と赤ん坊は
死にました。崖から転落して。
just like Beatrice did. But then Beatrice is back now, and apparently so is this supposed baby.
いえ、私が願ったから死んだ。だからこれは
そなたのせいではない。その先を考える必要はないぞ。
でも私が願ったから。
I guess it's slightly better. Well, it is better that Natsui didn't do it of her own hands, just throw this baby fucking off the cliff, but I feel like there's more to it than this.
いいや、違う。願えども叶えるか否かは神と悪魔と魔女の気まぐれ。そなたに罪はない。人間に罪はない。わらわが殺したことにしてもよい。いや、わらわが殺した。嘆くそなたを不憫に思い、わらわが赤子を連れた使用人を崖へいざない。その
不幸な事故があっただけではありま
This
せん
is Natsui using Beatrice, quote unquote, to relieve herself from her sins a little bit. To be like, no, it wasn't your fault.
事故で納得がいかなくば我らの仕業にそのための悪魔でございますよ。
そうだわ。私たちはそのためにいるのだもの。あなたが殺したわけもない。私たちが殺したのよ。だからあなたには何の罪もない。だからどうか自身を責めないで、夏日。
そうでしょうか。本当に私に
She
罪はないのでしょうか。
really wants to believe so badly.
ああ、ないぞ。19年前の復讐を名乗るワーコーどめ。呪うならわらわを呪うがよいわ。しかし呪うは魔女の専売特許よ。夏日に売りしその喧嘩、わらわが買おうではないか。わらわは後宮家顧問錬金術師黄金のベアトリーチェ。使えし主に売りし喧嘩はわらわが買おうぞ。19年前の復讐とな。1000年の魔女の前にその程度の年月、瞬きにも足りぬと知れ。19年前にそなたの死を願った夏日が憎いか。思い出させてやろうぞ。そなたを崖下へ誘ったのは誰かをな。
As the middle-aged female servant cuddled the sobbing baby, she walked on a small path through the trees. Natsui told her the baby was too loud, so she tried to get as far away from the rose garden as she could. She was completely unaware as to why she'd gone out of her way to head in this direction. However, the sobbing baby suddenly stopped crying. Something was reflected in its eyes, but the servants couldn't tell what. However, thinking the baby had stopped because it had taken an interest in something, she headed in the direction of the baby's gaze. The baby had seen a group of gold butterflies disappearing off into the trees, and on the other side of the trees, the servant saw a woman. Who? It was someone she didn't recognize, someone who couldn't possibly have been there. The baby stopped crying and stared in that direction. Then the servant's legs started to automatically carry her that way. Look at history being rewritten right before our eyes.
こちらへ来い、女。その呪われた赤子を抱いてな。
The woman couldn't disobey. She was completely overwhelmed by Beato's gold-glowing eyes. She walked lightly, as though through a dream world. At some point, the scenery around her had changed, but she did not notice. She could not notice. Though this should have been Rokenjima, at some point it had become the garden of a mansion she had never seen before. It was a garden she had never seen before, even grander than the great rose garden of the Ushiromiya family, a garden of gold roses. There stood an arbor, and a woman wearing an elegant dress beckoning her. There was a man who looked like a butler, and the tea he poured with a beautiful gesture had a very nice and enticing smell. It was as though they were telling her to join their tea party. She couldn't disobey. She had to go to the master of this golden rose garden and give this child as an offering.
許せ、女。魔女に見入られた不運を呪え。そして、この世で決してめでることかなわぬ 黄金のバラに囲まれながら眠れ。ガップ。
はい、了解。
When Gap snapped her fingers, pitch black hole opened at the woman's feet, and she was swallowed up along with the baby. The sight the woman and the baby witnessed in the very next moment probably burned itself into their eyes forever. The two floated in the air and looked down at the gold rose garden spread out below them. Below their feet was not that ground, but an unobstructed view of a golden rose garden which stretched as far as the eye could see. If one could have this scene imprinted in their mind as their last memory, that would be such a merciful way to die. Then the woman and the baby were swallowed up by the golden sea. The thud was remarkably plain and remarkably quiet for the sound of two lives being taken. However, it was a perfect fit for the entertainment at a tea party of witches. Darkness swallowed the woman and the baby and slowly expanded to engulf the entire rose garden. The sound of the wind grew stronger bit by bit. Was that TV static? What was that noise? It was the roar of the sea. The two who had died after falling from a great height into a thicket of golden roses were gradually engulfed by the roar of the sea, engulfed by the scenery of the beach below the cliff.
わらわが保証するぞ。そなたには何の罪もない。19年前の復讐とやらはこのわらわが買おうぞ。
崖下の2人を見つけ、私は青ざめました。そしてお屋敷へ駆け戻り、大騒ぎになりました。大至急船で病院に運びましたが、あの高さで即死を免れただけでも奇跡。
Okay, so they survived for a little while.
シオニも、そして赤ん坊も死にました。私はお父様から赤子を預けられ、3日も経ないうちに殺してしまったのです。主人は出張中でした。当時まだお屋敷にお住まいだったローザさんもご友人と旅行中でした。六軒島には私とお父様しかいなかった。そして私とお父様以外誰もよく知らぬ間にどこからともなく赤ん坊が現れ、そして消えていった。あれはそう夢なのよ。悪夢。お父様は私を責めるに違いないと思っていました。しかし何か様子がおかしかった。
読めていたぞ、読めていたぞ、この天罰はな。どこまであがくのか、どこまで我が物にならぬというのか。
Wait, this is about... He's talking about Beatrice. What?
腹の檻に興味はない。打ち捨てい。
When Father learned of the accident, he kept on laughing and laughing as though nothing could be more amusing, to the point that just listening to him disturbed me. Perhaps something had come loose in his mind. That was the day that changed him. Father shut himself inside the world of the occult even more than he had ever been before. When my husband came back, he was astonished to see how eccentric Father had now become. However, he had accepted that this would happen sooner or later. Of course, my husband had heard about the baby. He told me it was surely just some whim of Father's and to forget the whole episode. So I forgot it. It was an unfortunate accident. Okay, so Krauss knew about the baby, so she's... I understand why she's keeping it from Jessica, but I don't know why she's being so secretive about it with Krauss, because he knew that the baby died. Or apparently not, because this guy is here. No, there wasn't an accident at all. I forgot everything, even that the baby had existed in the first place. After all, it was a twisted nightmare which lasted not even 3 days, and it happened in autumn, I'm guessing. That's why there was the card saying it was her favorite season. That's right, it was all a nightmare. I don't want to remember any of it. The cliff, the broken fence, the roar of the sea, and the wailing of that baby.
その赤ん坊が19年前の赤ん坊だと？
くだらぬ。
So if this is Erica's game board, the baby probably did die, and this is just this guy here is like an avatar of like a piece to represent that baby. Now the question is, in the real world, if this is happening, if someone does see this character, how do we explain it, you know?
わらわが殺した。すでにこの世にはおらぬわ。
しかし赤き真実なきが人間の世界、人間の世界に信用できることなどありま
Yeah,
せん。
nothing can be trusted. Everything I see I have to like take with a grain of salt.
そうね。ベアとは確かに殺したわ。でも人間の世界では生きていることになっているのかもしれない。本当に生きているのかどうかは。
Whether it's really alive or not, okay.
実は生きていたというのですか？あの高さからあの岩場に転落して。
わからぬ。
Well, if that's the case, you should say Beatrice might not be alive too, the one who fell from the cliff.
だが落ち着け。そやつがどうそなたを憎もうとも、真実は事故だ。そなたを恨もうなど、お門違いもいいところよ。
でもたとえ指一本触れていないとしても、私は心の中で。
落ち着け。19年前の男が何を恨もうと叫ぼうと、そなたを追及できる罪などあるわけもない。だから落ち着け。19年前の男はわらわの来客として迎えてやろうぞ。気分の謎を解かれ、お役はごめんかと思っていた
yes, that
矢
would
先だ。
that would be too straightforward of a game, right? If we just solve the epitaph, new head is named, and that's it.
わらわの最後の客としてもてなしてやらねばな。
面白くなってまいりましたな。ゴールドスミス教の秘密を守るのに加え、19人目の来客、さらに19年前の男とは。
そうね。金蔵が生きてると主張する私たちにとってエリカは19人目ね。その19人目の駒に19年前の男。面白いじゃない。ワクワクするわ。
相手にとって不足なし。わらわの茶会の来客が一人では物足りないと思っていたところよ。来るがよい。俺
Forda Erica is Lady Berncastel's piece. In that case, whose piece is the man from 19 years ago? The voice, which could be faintly overheard through the receiver, was Natsui's.
わかりました。今すぐ出ます。部屋も出ます。電話も出ます。だから夫と娘には。
When heard through the receiver, even these begging screams, which would have shaken the heart of anyone who heard them, could be listened to with a heart of ice.
母さんが俺の約束を守る限り、あんたの秘密は守ってやるよ。約束を破るなよ。俺はもうお前のすぐ近くにいる。部屋の明かりが消えるかどうか、そして電話をしているかどうかさえ、俺さえ望むなら、あんたの寝顔にキスすることだってできるんだからな。
守ります。約束は守ります。だからやめて、もうやめて、やめて。
The receiver was set down violently. He knew very well how bad an aftertaste you could leave for the other side just by the way you hung up the phone. That's something that's lost on people with smartphones these days. You don't get that click, that satisfying click when you're mad at someone. Oh, adult. Shit.
はい、一丁上がり。
Interesting.
これで夏日は今夜は部屋から出てこないわ。器用ね。
But I want to know who this person is, though, if this person actually exists in this world. I assume so. Maybe? I'd be so bummed out if this was a character that was just created for this game.
あんた、
声を変えられるの？
声くらい誰だって変えられるわよ。パパにおねだりの時は甘い声、学校休む時は風っぽい声、実は嫌いな友達に断る時は申し訳なさそうな声。
お望みなら
どんな声でも
使い分けて
見せるけど。
あんた魔女やめたら声優になるといいわ。
これでお互い駒の準備は OK かしら。フルドエリカ、なかなか素敵な駒じゃない。エンジェなんかよりはるかにベルにふさわしい駒だわ。
お褒めに預かりまして光栄です、ラブダデルタ卿。
こちらこそよろしくよ。素敵だわ。本当に可愛い。魔女幻想に屈服させて、その顔を屈辱に歪めてやりたいわ。
だそうよ。私に恥をかかせないでよね。エンジェよりはるかに使える駒だってことを見せてちょうだい。
It's so sad that Angie's being referred to in past tense. I do miss Angie. I was hoping maybe somehow she would come back in some way, but I guess she's gone.
お任せを。ベルンカステル卿、我が主。私はあのようなネクラで、低能で、可愛げのかけらもない駒とは違います。
She had her own charm to her. I liked her a lot.
本当よね。エンジェなんてクズ肉になってバトラを焚きつける以外何の役にも立たなかったわ。家族愛とか兄弟愛とか私たちは全然興味ないの。私たちが見たいゲームはもっとえぐくてドロドロしててグロテスクでポップでキュートな殺人事件だもの。
夏日がキングでベアトがクイーンってとこかしら。夏日をかばって群がる魔女と家具たちはチェスの駒というよりはボーリングのピンって
感じ。夏日にベアと金蔵にガラクタ家具の幻想たち、私たちを楽しませてみせなさいよね。特にベアと私たち、もうあんたには飽きてるの。あんたの魔女伝説殺人ごっこはもうおしまい。あんたの出番もおしまいってわけ。このゲーム版はもう私とベルンがいただいたわ。
It's like a TV show where it's getting kind of stale, so like we have to introduce some crazy new characters in the new season in order to kind of spice things up a bit.
あんたなんて私たちの駒に落ちぶれて永遠に遊ばれてるのがお似合いよ。
夏日もベアトも薄汚い真実という腹渡を薄皮一枚で包んだだけのズタ袋だわ。それをズタズタに引き裂いて中身を引きずり出すことこそ私の、いいえ、私たちの数少ない娯楽なの。
楽しく遊べるわよ。ねえ見てる？ベアトリーチェ、あんたのゲーム版はこんなにも楽しく遊べるのよ。私が見せてあげるわ。本当に楽しい第5のゲームをね。
私たちばっかり気持ちよく喋っちゃかわいそうだわ。ベアトにも喋らせてあげたら。
だそうよ。特別に発言を許すわ。今回のゲームの抱負でも言っちゃったら。何もないって。そうよねそうよね。あんたバトルに屈しちゃった負け犬だもんね。私に任せなさい。魔女側優勢に一気に流れを変えてあげるから。ただあんたという駒はサクリファイスさせてもらっちゃうけどね。
碑文も第一の番以前にあっさり解かれ、黄金の番人ベアトリーチェも型なしですね。
夏日の幻想として駒に残れてよかったじゃない。まあもうあんたの扱いは駒じゃなくて
I didn't even think of the
ピンなん
fact
だ
that
けどね。
having the epitaph solved so quickly was almost, yeah, like a slap in the face to Beatrice too. Like, you're not needed anymore because there's no reason for your killings to happen. There's no reason for you to really exist in this game.
お 金の魔女ベアトリーチェなんてもう出番はないのよ。あんたとその家具たちは私のゲームではほんのちょい役やられ役。気持ちよーくすっ飛ばされて私とベルのおもちゃにされなさいよ。
嫌ならやめてって一言言ってみて。そしたらやめてあげるから。
嫌じゃないってあんたピン確定ね。
There's no need for a golden witch anymore. All that's needed is a sacrificial doll so that we two witches can enjoy some time playing. Die, die, disappear. Confess to your filthy past and your crimes. Pour out your sob story of regret and repentance as you throw yourself off a cliff and die. There will be no appearances for the golden witch. This will be a most horrible game. On the surface, it does look very similar to the usual tales. Oh, is this a new song? I don't think I've heard this one before. However, there is no respect given to the true main characters of this tale. This is supposed to be the tale to which the Golden Witch Beatrice invited Ushiromiya Battler. However, the host has been lost, and there is no longer a guest. With both inviter and invitee now gone, only the worst kind of tale remains. Welcome to the 5th game, End of the Golden Witch. Welcome to a party with neither hosts nor guests, hijacked by wicked witches.
いいバトラー、いよいよ2日目を始めるわよ。私はベアトみたいにトロい展開は嫌いなんだから。
I said that this game did feel like it's kind of speed running. I'd be like, yeah, you know what's going on. So we're gonna throw some new characters in, we're gonna mix it up a bit, and we're gonna skip all of the slow, boring stuff.
好きにしやがれ。お前が何をかき回そうと、俺は必ずこのゲームの真相にたどり着いてやる。
そうでなくては困ります。妹さんのためにもしっかり戦わなくちゃ。ご安心を。ラムダデルタ卿はベアトリーチェの間抜けと違い、はるかに恐ろしい相手ですが、私がしっかりサポートするので問題ありません。私と一緒に今度こそ魔女幻想を暴いてやろうではありませんか。
お前なんか知らねえ。ベアとのゲームにいなかった存在など俺は認めもしないし必要ともしない。
強がり言ってる場合ですか。まあお互いせいぜい頑張りましょう。一緒に魔女幻想とやらを引き裂いてやりましょう。
Erica brazenly put her hand out for me to shake. Instead of just passively ignoring this, I gave her an active and clear answer by knocking her hand aside.
握手は嫌いだそうよ。エンジェと同じなのね。
Man, they are just really digging in with the Angie stuff, aren't they?
ご安心を。私はエンジェよりはるかに役立つ駒ですので。
Oh, they're gonna bring that up to him again, being like all she was useful for was being turned into meat to make him more motivated.
バトラさんの闘志を回復する以外、何もできなかったひき肉とはわけが違います。
Because I know that's the only thing that gets through to him is he can act all like tough and like he doesn't care. You just have to mention Angie, that's his Achilles heel.
頼もしそうな仲間に恵まれて嬉しいわね。かつてはワルギリアにロの上、エンジェまで来てくれたわ。そしてとうとうベルにエリカまで。あんたを応援してくれるクマたちはこんなにもたくさん。それでも未だに真相の尻尾すらつかめない無能っぷりってどんな気持ち？どんな気持ち？
関係ねえな。これは俺とベアとの戦いだ。その他の誰であろうと関係ねえ。
ああ、そうなの。やっと独り立ち。いっつも誰かに助けられ情けをかけられてばかりのあんたがどこまで一人でできるやら。楽しませてもらうわ。
取り戻すぜ これは俺たちのゲームだ。お前たちはお呼びじゃね
え。ええ、そうよね。これはあなたたちのゲームだわ。なら取り戻してごらんなさいよ。手加減だらけだったベアとのゲームさえ勝てなかったあんたが、誰の助けもなく一切の容赦のないラムダのゲームをどこまで戦えるのか。
ではお目覚めなさい、後ろ宮バトラー。ようこそ10月5日の朝へ。
Alright, so the first night has just passed. We are entering the morning of October 5th, aka the day after. Some murders have definitely happened, so it's just a matter of what scene are we going to come across now, what sight are we going to behold, who is going to be dead, and how did they die. Always the exciting thing to learn. And I imagine Erica is going to go into full-on detective mode and basically just drag Battler around as like her little sidekick and figure everything out because she's perfect and she knows everything. And then of course in the background we have that whole thing with Natsui learning about this baby that apparently died 19 years ago who has now come back for revenge. Whether we're going to meet him, I don't know. I'm certainly hoping we do get to meet this mysterious man. It's always fun to get new characters thrown into the mix of this game. As Lambda Delta said, the story, I don't agree with it, but she said the story is getting slow and stale, so you gotta throw some new characters in, spice things up a little bit. So I'm excited to see the aftermath of the first Twilight, and see what is going to be awaiting us. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Until then, bye. Special shoutouts to my top tier patrons: Nana, Kaori Mikoto, Revealing Storm, Tequila Mockingbird, Jared Fan, Joel Ostman, Harry Gazif, Pirate, Punkcake G, Asborn Kennedy, iCognito, and Saya.